Afternoon. How's everybody today? It wasn't set up. Yeah, I feel like I just went to bed. Time to get up. Baseball in the UK. It's the topic. That is the topic. Hey, Genghis. Genghis Khan. Genghis, you are... Hey, Ben. Genghis, you're a prosthetic technician, I think. It's beautiful. That's good. It's okay here. The sun's not up yet, so I don't know. A prosthetic technician, though, I think, Genghis. Almost retired. But then, you didn't want to let a shark bite your arms off? I mean, prosthetic, I don't know what kind of prosthetics. But, I mean, seems like you can make new arms. Just make yourself new arms. Oh, I was laughing about the shark. About your shark comment. It's like, they don't kill. You're like, but I don't want to get my arms bit off. And they usually go for the legs. Anyway. But, yeah, baseball in the UK. We'll talk about that a little bit today. Yeah, I'm sure you have nice arms, Genghis. Was that like your dream job? What's everybody's dream job? If you could do anything you wanted, what would you do? I guess I'd be a writer. Although trust fund child sounds nice too. You ever see the movie Office Space? That guy he doesn't really want to work anymore. That's the best job. Baseball in the UK, huh? Man, yesterday, I don't know, y'all know anything about baseball? Yeah, you know, Genghis? You don't know that much about it. That's okay, you don't have to. I'll talk about baseball in your country. You want to talk about rounders? Rounders. Y'all played that when y'all were kids, probably. Y'all know where baseball was invented? Who invented baseball? I'll talk about that. Film reviewer? That would be good too. I mean, travel writer, and I'm kind of trying to make it happen. Sounds really good to me. Two things I love, traveling and writing. But film reviewer, that would be a good job. Hey, Adrian, we're just talking about what our dream job would be. What would your dream job be? If you could do anything. Genghis, yeah, rounders. How about rounders? Does anybody know who invented baseball? Man, I put out that York National Railway Museum video yesterday. It did pretty good. You'd have loved to go in the Army, Genghis. Well, hats off to you. You play rounders at school? I thought as much. I got some information about rounders. I looked it up. I mean, I kind of knew about rounders, but I didn't really know that much about rounders. Except for y'all play, there's a bat and a ball. But yeah, I looked it up. I got some information about rounders. Got some information about baseball in the UK. Oh, Six Nations Rugby coming soon? Hmm. I never heard of that, but Six Nations, I would say yours, Australia, New Zealand. Hmm. Where else is rugby popular? I mean, are you breaking it down by like Scotland, England, Ireland? Do do I like real tennis, Kingus? What do you mean by real tennis? Yeah, I like real tennis. England, Wales, Scotland, France, and Italy. Okay. Oh, and Ireland. Well, if you're not inviting Australia to New Zealand, don't they got to be there for it to be like a real competition? Yeah, Genghis, I grew up playing tennis. I played more tennis than anything. I lived on the tennis courts from ages 6 to 20. I spent more time on the tennis courts than at home. Tennis was my sport. So all I did was eat, sleep, live tennis from 6 years old. Started playing competitively around 10 in tournaments. Was state ranked. Yeah, I like real tennis. I'm not sure what you mean by real tennis though, as opposed to fake tennis. Yeah, I watch Wimbledon on TV. Yeah, you're not getting it. Tennis is, I lived it, I breathed it, I ate it, I slept it, I drank it. My ambition as a child was to be a professional tennis player. I got a I got a scholarship to university. I was all about tennis. Tennis, y'all. I can beat all of y'all. Don't even try. No, I'm old now, man. I'm so sore. My shoulder, I wore it out. Real tennis is a tad older. It's a bit like squash. You can hit it against the walls. I've never heard of that. I never heard of that. I'm gonna argue with you, Genius. Real tennis is tennis. How do you call something obscure the real one? The real one is the real one. It's not that popular now. Maybe it was older. You might call it the original tennis. But these days, these times, real tennis is tennis. But yeah, that was my sport. Tennis was a family sport, as well as baseball. I had two older brothers. They really focused on baseball, so being the youngest brother, I focused on the other family sport. Got better than them all, even though I was the youngest. But yeah, we're going to talk about baseball though in the UK. I put out that National Railway Museum video yesterday and it really did good. It just surprised me. Yeah, swimming, Adrian, was a tough sport. Ben was a cross-country runner. Right, Ben? I think you might have said swimming too, maybe. Yeah, swimming's tough. I went to this one high school because I went to several high schools. I went to this one high school, had just massive sporting complex. They had a full-size Olympic indoor swimming pool with diving platforms. The high school had a diving team. Half marathons, AJ. You don't know any UK baseball teams, Kingus? We're going to talk about it. UK baseball. Uh, they had a good swimming team there at that school. They had full-on water polo. They had water polo teams at that school. Mainly you played football, kickboxing, and swimming, Ben. Okay. Yeah, Ben was a swimmer too. That's a tough sport. Swimming. That was okay. I took lessons when I was young, really young. Took swimming lessons. It helps, if you learn to properly swim. In the country around here, when we were kids, a lot of dads just toss their kids in there and swim. That's not good training. But anyway, that National Railway Museum video did good. boosted the channel. Right when the channel's going slow, your dad chucked you in the pool when you were 4, right? They used to do that here too. But yeah, that boosted the channel right when the channel was going slow. National Railway Museum video. And then today I just put out. So I got home. I worked yesterday a long time. Now we don't do swimming lessons in school. I took private lessons. A lot of kids don't take lessons. So my parents put me in private swimming lessons. They don't do it in the school. Some schools have swim teams. But by the time you're on the swim team, you know how to swim. So yeah, last night I was busy working hard and long. Got home late, did my normal stuff. Had to do laundry. Had to cook dinner. And then I recorded Victoria and Albert Museum and edited it and scheduled it. But I scheduled it for the next day. But what I didn't realize is it was already past midnight. So I actually scheduled it for tomorrow. Then I woke up this morning. I was like, that video didn't release. It's because I scheduled it for tomorrow because it was already past midnight. Very confusing. So I just released it like an hour ago. The Victoria and Albert Museum video. Along with that, released Jam Roly Poly and Clovelly. So those just came out to the channel like an hour ago. They were supposed to come out at your time this morning. Oops. So, I don't know. I released them. I know it's midday there already. We'll see how they do. But those are out now. Alright, let's talk about baseball. Do y'all know who invented baseball? Where baseball was invented? Do you know at one time baseball was semi-popular in the UK? Basically between World War I and World War II. Baseball had its best run in the UK. And who invented baseball? Where was baseball invented? And we'll talk about rounders some too. Nobody knows. Has anyone ever watched a baseball game? No. Now, baseball for me was, in my family, my dad was a big baseball fan, and he came from a baseball loving family. And I had two older brothers. They were really good at baseball, for sure. You know, not fully, but you've seen bits of baseball then. And my dad coached. Mostly my dad coached my older brother's baseball teams. And a year or two he coached teams I played on. I was the youngest of three brothers, so he kind of was tired out. I thought I scheduled this yesterday. If you noticed, no, there were no numpties because I had only allowed subscribers to comment. And I thought I did that again today. Adrian, you've only seen bits on the TV in American movies. Genghis, you know Babe Ruth, huh? Babe Ruth? He's iconic. Anyway, so baseball was big in my family. It was a family sport. I started playing what we call Little League. That is an organization in the U.S. All over the U.S. is Little League. I started playing Little League where you start with T-ball. Usually where you hit the ball at the tee, there's no pitching. So I started that as young as you can, which was 5 years old. And I continued to play baseball until I was 16. So for about 11 years, I played baseball, starting with Little League. And then eventually when I got to high school, I played on a high school team as well. Yeah, most of your knowledge of baseball is from films. There's some good baseball movies. Field of Dreams, The Natural, Bull Durham. Those are good baseball films. So, baseball was a big deal in my family. I used to watch a lot of games with my dad, played a lot, but eventually I went with the other family sport, which was tennis, as my focus. My family also loved tennis. My dad played, my brothers played. And I started getting, I was good at baseball, but I just went with tennis and started focusing on tennis. Yeah, The Natural with Robert Redford. It's a good movie, Kingus. But who invented baseball? Yeah, I don't know. Probably because you don't watch it, so why would you care? Baseball, it comes from you, kind of. Baseball's origins are really in Europe, including the UK. You didn't know that? So, baseball is like a conglomeration of several games the Europeans brought over to North America. That's how it kind of started. These are bat and ball games. You have cricket. It's a bat and ball game. So these types of games came over with various European settlers to North America. So where exactly it comes from is controversial. Some people will claim that it came from England. Some people will claim that it came from America. Some people will claim that it came from other countries. Just like American football came from the UK related to rugby. Right. You brought over these sports and then they got changed, is what happened. So American football is also a conglomeration of various other ball sports that came from Europe, and then a new game evolved. That's what happened with baseball too. Uh, Games like stool ball, cricket, and rounders were developed from folk games in early Britain, Ireland, and continental Europe, such as France and Germany. Early forms of baseball had a number of names, including goal ball, round ball, fetch catch, stool ball, and simply base. In one version of the game, teams pitched to themselves, runners went round the bases in the opposite direction of today's game, much like in the Nordic game Brandball. So even the Nordic people had influence. The earliest mention of the term baseball is in a 1744 children's book, A Little Pretty Pocket Book in England. England colonists took this game to North America along with other bat and ball games from other places, and the game really developed into what it is in the U.S. in the 19th century in New York City. These are where the rules started to come in, and today's game of American baseball was actually invented, you could say, in New York City when they started making new rules that were different from the European bat and ball games. So, originated in Europe, really invented in New York City, because the rules to baseball are very different from any of the European games. You can see already how it's not like cricket, except for there's a bat and a ball. And it's not really like rounders either, except for there's a bat and a ball. So that's how about 1845, what were called the Knickerbocker rules, is the first time they can see that these rules started being written down. Knickerbocker is in New York. That's a name for a New Yorker, a Knickerbocker. And so that's where it came from. But roots, definitely baseball roots, are in England. You know, I don't even like the game anymore. But now, has anyone ever heard of Abner Doubleday? Anyone ever heard of Abner Doubleday? I'm guessing no. So Abner Doubleday was credited with inventing the base game of baseball in the U.S. Abner Doubleday. He was credited with it. For a long time, Americans would swear that Abner Doubleday, and even still today, some Americans believe Abner Doubleday invented baseball. The truth is, he had no connection to the game whatsoever. It somehow got started that he had something to do with writing down the original rules, and the 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 sports league at the time backed this notion, started printing it, and even when they kind of found out it wasn't true, they pushed full steam ahead with the notion that this guy Abner Doubleday invented baseball, and none of it was true. Still to this day, some people think Abner Doubleday invented baseball, but he really had only loose ties to the game and wasn't really associated with any rule making or inventing of baseball. So that's just a little myth if you've ever heard of Abner Doubleday. He indeed did not invent baseball. More than likely, he didn't know much about baseball. We've been to a few games. So what about rounders? You don't want to talk about rounders? You know, I've heard of it. You've all played rounders, I think. It's kind of a kid's game. You play it. I didn't know too much about it but I looked it up. Rounders is a bat and ball game. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but this is stuff I didn't know. It's a batting and fielding game that involves hitting a small, hard, leather-cased ball with a wooden, plastic, or metal bat that has a cylindrical end. The players score by running around the four bases on the field. Played in England since Tudor times. It is referenced in 1744 in the children's book, A Little Pretty Pocketbook, where it is called baseball. The name baseball was superseded by the name rounders in England, while other modifications of the game played elsewhere retained the name baseball. The game is popular among British and Irish school children, particularly among girls. Is that true? You have a lot of girls that play baseball or play rounders. As of 2015, rounders is played by an estimated 7 million children in the UK. Gameplay centers on a number of innings in which teams alternate at batting and fielding. Points known as rounders are scored by the batting team when one of their players completes a circuit past four bases without being put out. The batter must strike at a good ball and attempt to run a rounder in an anti-clockwise direction around the first, second, and third base and home to the fourth, although they may stay at any of the first three. The batter is out if the ball is caught, if the ball to which they are running is touched with the ball, or if while running they are touched with the ball by a fielder. Similar to baseball. It looks like you have the Gaelic Athletic Association, so they're like leagues or whatever of rounders. Is that correct? Gloves are not allowed in rounders. Yeah, when we was kids, we all said it was a girls' game, but to be honest, it was fun, right? It's fun, right? I get it. So no gloves? No gloves? You don't use gloves? The English version of the game is the rounder's bat is much shorter than baseball. It's usually swung one-handed. Yeah, King says the bat is smaller. You swing it one-handed. Misses or strikes are not called, so there are no walks or strikeouts. Each batter receives only one good ball. Must run whether they hit it or not. No gloves or helmets or pads. We don't wear pads in baseball. I mean, pros may have some padding on their ankles or stuff for foul balls. They only wear helmets when they bat. It's dangerous. Throw the ball 100 miles an hour. But so you have to run even if you don't hit the ball. Then what happens? They just pick up the ball that you didn't hit and throw you out. The location of the bowler's arm motion, which is an underarm. Okay, so you throw, the pitcher throws it underhanded. Well, of course, you don't need helmets for that. So, interesting. It looks like there are like teams or whatever. It looks like girls' teams in this GAA. Interesting. Interesting. So how about this? This is your history in the UK. And when baseball was popular somewhat in the UK, I'm going to read from this article. It says, few realize that America's favorite pastime has a history beyond the country's hallowed baseball grounds. While the game has often been relegated to the sidelines of British sporting culture during the First and Second Wars, it was arguably one of the country's most played and watched sports, thanks to the arrival of baseball-loving Americans and Canadians. Baseball's surprising place in British history stretches back 150 years when in the summer of 1874, the Philadelphia Athletics and the Boston Red Stockings played two exhibition games at Edge Hill, the home of Liverpool Cricket Club. The turnout of Liverpudlians was disappointing, but a more generous crowd of 2,000 was to be found at Manchester's Old Trafford cricket ground a few days later. Many were no doubt drawn by curiosity. Baseball was still in its infancy, and American promoters felt that the new sport could find a ready audience in this nation of sports lovers, as it had done in Canada, where the first recorded baseball game was played in 1838. There's women's football and rugby in the UK. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, pretty cool. So, by the time the Red Stockings and Athletics reached the fertile ground of the Lords, the number of spectators had ballooned to 6,000. The stands were packed with onlookers from all classes, including a number of ladies in handsome equipages, who added to the brilliance of the scene. The Lords match was a high-scoring affair, with Boston routing Philadelphia 24-7. They crushed them. 24-7. That was the score that day in England. The abundance of home runs was attributed to the firm ground, which allowed the ball to escape beyond the grasp of scrambling fielders. It was a big game. They played a few games in England in 1874. And that helped the sport to kind of catch ground in the UK. Despite the spectacle of the Lord's game, they called this, snide remarks echoed around cricket's hallowed ground. The game's so much like rounders, could never supersede cricket, people said. The comparison to rounders, a game played in schoolyards since Tudor times, would pervade British discussions of baseball for the next 150 years. The similarities between the two games are hardly surprising. Baseball maintained a fringe presence in British sport life throughout the late Victorian and Edwardian eras. So it caught on a little bit there. Many association football teams took up the sport in the summer months to help maintain fitness between seasons. In fact, Aston Villa won England's professional baseball championship in 1890. So y'all had a national baseball championship in England, and your Aston Villa football team won it in 1890. It also proved popular with spectators. In February 1914, 30,000 people joined King George at Stamford Bridge to watch the New York Giants face off against the Chicago White Sox. They called it baseball fever in the newspapers. Y'all caught baseball fever in 1914. However, first-class matches were suspended on the outbreak of war. So wartime kind of slowed down baseball for you. But then a bunch of Canadians came over. I'm paraphrasing the article now because I've already read it. At least Villa can say they won something. But a bunch of Canadians came over to the UK between World War I. And then they started playing and teaching other British soldiers how to play baseball. And you had more games there. In 1917, Princess Louise and American-born politician Nancy Waldorf Astor co-sponsored a baseball game between the USA and Canada. 10,000 spectators came out. It was described in the press as a merry hullabaloo. Excited by this, a band of American businessmen founded the Anglo-American Baseball League in 1918. 4 military teams slugged it out in football grounds around London, with matches being held at Chelsea Stamford Bridge every Sunday. Red, white, and blue posters now in the collection of the Imperial War Museum, which I'm going to check out. Coming soon. I'm going to react to the Imperial War Museum. Promoted baseball. Here's the poster. This poster's in the Imperial War Museum. United States versus Canada. So they created a league of soldiers from the U.S. and the Canadian armies that were over there and started a league and was playing every weekend. It's kind of cool. And yeah, here's a poster of it. Saturday, July 28th at 3:30, 1917. And that poster hangs in the Imperial War Museum. Okay, so, but at the end, the Anglo-American League folded with the end of hostilities in November 1918. The appetite for the sport continued throughout the interwar period. In 1935, thousands of fans mobbed baseball star Babe Ruth on his visit to London. The following year, the National Baseball Association oversaw the establishment of a professional baseball league in London. And in 1938, the United Kingdom won the inaugural World Baseball Cup, the Baseball World Cup. In 1938, the Baseball World Cup, England won in 1938. That's pretty cool. It was mostly popular in London, though. It had a lot to do with Canadian and American soldiers that were there between World War I and World War II. You've had some famous baseball players, including in 1943, Monte Weaver. Let's see. I'm trying to see. There's a few other. You had a few baseball players make it to Major League Baseball, even back then in the 40s. Despite the optimism of wartime commentators, baseball could not maintain a sizable foothold in British sporting culture once the bulk of American and Canadian personnel had left after the war. It doesn't say how many teams are playing games, probably 3 or 4, I don't know. Baseball's never strayed far from the fields of little America. So it faded after that. Yeah, it doesn't see how many teams were in the Baseball World Cup. In 1938, the United Kingdom won the inaugural, so it was the first Baseball World Cup, beating the United States by 4-1. You beat us at our own game. I'm still mad about it. Still mad about it. Y'all gonna beat us at the first time the Baseball World Cup was ever held. You beat us. I think the fix was in. Something happened. Doesn't seem right. Fix was in. We do play baseball games there. Still sometimes. Trying to see when the next one was. I don't know. But we do still play baseball. Yeah, you quit while you're ahead, Ben. So there was a period there when baseball started getting a little foothold in the UK. Y'all didn't know, huh? I thought it was interesting, and y'all might be interested in baseball in the UK. For a little bit, y'all liked it. But I think you kind of associated, like Ben was saying, Rounders is probably fun, but it seems like a girl's game. And so maybe the plus just baseball just can't catch on because of that. But yeah, it was in your genes since Tudor's times. Rounders had a lot of influence, you know what I mean? People were playing that, bat and ball games. Even the Danish has said or something had a bat and ball game and they brought over to North America. So it has its roots. Baseball has its roots in the UK. It's pretty cool. And then it almost caught on, but it faded. I guess it was kind of a novelty at one point, but it kind of faded. So y'all don't know a lot about baseball. Y'all know what a 643 is? Y'all don't. But rules of baseball are definitely different than rounders. And I love baseball growing up. You might have had too many sports for all to be popular. Yeah. What about are there positions in rounders? It didn't say. Is everybody playing in a certain position? Names for their position like pitcher, catcher, first baseman, second baseman, third baseman, shortstop, right field, left field, center field. That's baseball positions. There's 9 players on a team, and those are the positions. Pitcher, catcher, first base, second base, third base, shortstop, right field, left field, center field. Well, we have driving ranges for baseball. They're called batting cages. We have batting cages you go to and just bat. Bowler and batter, is that what you call them? The bowler and the batter? And we call them the pitcher and the catcher. Bowler and batter and fielders. No specific positions in the field. Just go out there and cover it. Is there a certain number of players in rounders? There's 9 in baseball. Yeah, 643, I mentioned that. That is baseball terminology. So in baseball, each position has a number. It's not the player's number. It's not the number on the back of the player. It's your position number. Each position on the field has a number. The pitcher's number, position number is 1. The catcher's position number is 2. The first baseman's position number is 3. The second baseman's position number is 4. Third baseman's position number is 5. The shortstop is 6. The right field 7, center field 8, left field 9. Hiya, Choppy. So in baseball terminology, if you say a 6-4-3, that means the ball was hit by the batter to position 6, the shortstop. He fielded the ball. He threw it to position 4, the second baseman. Second baseman then in turn threw it to the first baseman. And this is because there was a runner already on first. That is called a 6-4-3 double play. And so that's baseball terminology. You refer to, hey Wayne, hey Terry, how's it going? You refer to positions by their numbers, but it's not the player number, it's their position number. I played position 6 most of my baseball career, which is shortstop. I also played catcher, which I loved to play catcher. When you first start, the coach puts you wherever he thinks you're going to be good. And for me, as a young kid, that was shortstop, and I stayed in that position. Uh, but as I got older, I wanted to play catcher, and I did play catcher here and there. Most teams, I was the starting shortstop and the backup catcher. So I would catch some games. Yeah, I did. I was reading Terry's thing, and I said, "Hey, wait." Uh, so yeah, I would catch a few games here and there. I love playing catcher with all the gear. The catcher is like the quarterback of baseball. I don't know if you realize that. The catcher's running the field. He can see the entire field. The catcher calls the pitches. So the pitcher's not deciding what to throw. The catcher's telling the pitcher what to throw. The catcher stays in the game the whole time. He gets to know all the batters. He understands baseball. I don't know how hard a cricket ball is. Baseball's pretty hard though. I don't know. I've never seen a cricket ball. But so the catcher knows all the batters. He knows how they swing. He knows what pitch to throw that batter. The pitcher comes in and out of games. The pitcher may join the game midway. He doesn't know what that batter looks like. He hasn't pitched to that batter yet today, but the catcher knows. And so the catcher's like the quarterback. He's calling the pitches. He's guiding the whole team. He's telling the outfielder, move over. He's telling the outfielder, move back. He's telling the second baseman, come in. Because he knows the batter. He's watching each batter. The catcher is paying attention. Okay, this batter swings this way. This batter hits the ball that way. And so the catcher, he's in charge. I don't know if you understand. Seems like the pitcher would be, but it's not the pitcher. It's the catcher. I love to play catcher. It was fun. All right. I mean, that's basically, I just want to talk about what baseball was like in the UK and how, I almost liked it. And you had a lot to do with inventing it. I was going to mention Babe Ruth. That's probably the only baseball player you ever heard of. Babe Ruth, nicknamed the Sultan of SWAT. Hit a lot of home runs. He also was a hard drinker, smoked cigars, ate hot dogs during the game, was often hungover, and still was so much better than everybody else that it didn't matter. Yeah, Babe Ruth was a hard drinker. In most games, he was hungover or still drunk. And yeah, he would eat on the sidelines during a game and was still better than everybody. Yeah, Terry, we talked about who invented it. Well, the roots, I'm not going to give the UK the title of inventor. The roots come from Europe, have a lot to do with games that were played in England, but then we invented the modern day rules in New York City and changed it's a conglomeration of games that come from Europe, and then they gave birth to a new game in New York City. So we invented it. We didn't adopt it. But you did bring bat and ball games over to the U.S. It's from those roots that the game was invented. The Yankees are the most winning team in the U.S. They have the most World Series titles. The second most winning team in the U.S. is the St. Louis Cardinals. But everybody knows about the Yankees around the world. a bit like the English language, I guess. Adrian, don't get me started on. Your dialect and our dialect developed from the same early modern English at the same time on two different continents. That's what happened. The language that we brought over, or that you brought over to North America, began to change. And at the same time, that same language also began to change in the UK. So they went two different directions. And the language you speak, Adrian, is not the language that our language came from. We're sister dialects. What you speak and what we speak are sister dialects. What you speak is not the parent dialect. The parent language is early modern English. And yeah, it's still changing here too, Adrian. That's what language does. The Boston Red Sox, Genghis? Well, they're not, they have a winning tradition. But the Yankees are by far have the most World Series titles. And the St. Louis Cardinals are the second most. But you've all heard of the Yankees, I'm sure. You know when y'all call us Yanks, like, you call Americans Yanks. Do you know that for us that's weird? Do you know that? Because to us, a Yankee is someone from the North that fought with the Union Army during the Civil War. That's what a Yankee is. So when you call us all Yanks, they used to more during the Second World War. Yeah. Like when you call a Southerner a Yankee, some of us will be offended. Not me so much, but some Southerners, if you call them a Yank, them could be fighting words. Yeah, you could call Palms the Aussies. Well, Adrian, you say you don't say that word these days, but I get called a Yank in the comments pretty regular. So maybe you don't, but some do. Some do. I can find comments where I'm called a Yank. It doesn't bother me, but it's just weird. I'm gonna wrap things up. Only Dumpty's called. I mean, it was a term during the World War II. Like, I kind of get why y'all did, but I just didn't know if you understand. Well, Southerners, you just call Southerners, but you don't call... There's still animosity that exists from the Civil War. Some, especially, like when I was a kid, there was a lot more animosity still from the Civil War. And so you would not call a Southerner a Yankee. Yeah, well, again, it goes to language. In your language, Yanks just mean Americans. You are correctly calling us that because that is your language. And that's how it developed. Yeah, I know, it's only a friendly banter name. Yeah, I'm not offended. I'm just saying, especially like 50 years ago, if you call someone from the South a Yankee, they would be offended. You just call us Southerners. Or an American. You know what I mean? If we're traveling. But yeah, the Civil War caused a lot of long-held animosity. I mean, it's hard to be the losing team. That's what happened with the Southerners. And the winning team was the Yankees. And so they didn't want to be called that. But in your language, it means something different. That's how language is, like we were saying. It just develops. I don't take it the wrong way. I don't. I mean, any name could be, it depends on context. Right. It depends on context, how it's used. I'm not offended. Yeah, limeys. Yeah, that could also be the same way, right? I was just letting you know that I didn't know if you realized that some Southerners, they don't want to be called that. um, my favorite team was the St. Louis Cardinals. My favorite player was a shortstop with the St. Louis Cardinals named Ozzie Smith. Y'all probably never heard of him. The Wizard of Oz. Uh, and there is one cool thing about baseball. Uh, when, and you can find some of these videos. I'm just going to mention it because I don't know, it's probably not cool to you, but to Americans. When Osama bin Laden was finally killed, that news broke where several Major League Baseball games were happening. And it started being, people started getting on their phones like, oh, we killed Osama bin Laden. The crowd. The New England Patriots, well, they're good at football in the NFL, Terry. Baseball team. Yeah, they're in the Super Bowl again this year. The New England Patriots. Do y'all know where they play? What city they're associated with? Because they're in New England. Where's that? Anyway, when Osama bin Laden was killed, news started spreading throughout the fans in a few of these games. And then the players started getting word from the dugouts and started talking about Osama bin Laden being killed finally. It was a big deal in the U.S. And you can see footage on YouTube of it, of just the word spreading around the stadium, and then getting to the players, and then the game stopped down. It was very unusual for something like that to happen. And it's kind of cool. I don't know. It's kind of cool. But that's about it. I learned a little bit about rounders. And maybe you learned a little bit about baseball in the UK. It almost caught hold. And y'all won the first ever baseball World Cup. Congratulations. You beat the US in that. Way back when. And some of our teams still play. Major League Baseball still plays games occasionally in the UK. Anyway, I'll come over there and start a league. Do we have 9 players? We need 9 guys. Round up a few other. Well, technically, we need 18 if we want to play a game against somebody else. Start back the English Baseball League. We can do it. I feel like Terry can pitch. Got a good arm, Terry? How fast can you throw? Currently, Genghis still hasn't been attacked by a shark. Still has both of his arms. And so he can also play. Adrian, Ben, both swimmers. They got to be good athletes. Well, Terry, you can play pitcher. They don't have to move much. You need some of that muscle. You just need some of that to pitch. Yeah, if you're the only team, you could say you're unbeaten. If it was the only time, it might have been. I don't know. Every day's a learning day. Yes, Adrian can run, right? Ben, no. Or Genghis, no. No ghosts. But we probably can't keep them out. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. They probably follow Genghis around. Like if we could see ghosts, like in the Sixth Sense, like I see dead people. There's probably just like 6 or 7 always around Genghis. You have technical skills, good Genghis. All right. Well, we're short a few numbers though. Maybe we can just play rounders. I don't care if it's a girls' game. It looks fun. You want to play? But it was fun today talking about a little UK baseball. But good to see everybody. Genghis, Adrian, Ben, Terry. It's just us, huh? Just us today. But yeah, check out the videos I put out late today. Whatever they were, Victorian Albert Museum, Favelli, and my jam roly-poly tasting video. But yeah, cheers to y'all. Y'all have a good day. Wayne from Dallas, Texas, signing out.